So here's a really good short story, a little different than the ones I normally cover, about a guy who ultimately ends up getting revenge on his ex-fiancée who left him just weeks before they're supposed to get married for another guy 10 years later. And how truly, in a way, how success and wealth is the best revenge and what can come from the success and wealth. Titled, Am I the a-hole for not telling my former fiancée I bought her dream house? And a shout out to my man Joseph for sending me this story. He says here, 10 years ago, my fiancée left me a few weeks before our wedding. We grew up in a small town, we were friendly, went to the same school, but we were never in the same clique. She was one of the popular kids and I was not. After a few years after college, I moved back home when my dad got sick. I found a job in my field about 45 minutes away from home. I would help my dad go to his chemo appointments. It was during one of those appointments I ran to my ex. As in, she's his ex now, but back then she was just, chick you used to know. She was now working at a hospital. One day while waiting, I asked her out. Uh-oh. Working at a hospital, huh? Does that mean nurse? It turned out we shared a lot of the same interests. It seemed like our relationship was going great. About a year or so into dating my ex, she and I moved into a rented house together. The following year, I proposed. Smack! Smack for moving in with her that quickly, and smack for proposing after not knowing her a whole lot of time. But anyhow, we began looking for a house. She always wanted to live in her grandparents' house on the lake near our town. Her family was forced to sell the house when her grandparents died because of an inheritance dispute. 6 months before our wedding, a chance event happened. The couple who bought her grandparents' lake house had grown tired of our snowy winters. It took some work and nearly all of my savings, but I was able to buy her dream house. It was going to be a surprise wedding present, so I didn't tell her or anyone else in her family my plans. Well, this guy really loves his girl and wants to do this for her, the dream house that they lost. What a great wedding gift. What a great guy. A month before our wedding, she and her friends went to Miami for her bachelorette party. Talk about stereotypes. Gee, what do you think is going to happen here? I'm not all sure what happened there. Part of me doesn't really want to know, but I do know her high school boyfriend was there too. When she got back from the trip, she broke down and confessed that she was afraid to get married and wanted to call it off. It was a mess. She later moved to Florida and eventually married the high school boyfriend. So in other words, she went down there with her girlfriends, ran into him, I'm using that in air quotes, obviously hooked up, and dumped 2 weeks before their wedding. Now, if she had second thoughts about the wedding and didn't cheat on you or anything like that, that's one thing, but I don't buy knowing what I know and the fact that she worked at a hospital as a nurse and she didn't cheat on you and all that. But anyhow, she ended it. I ended up moving back to the city for an amazing job. In the meantime, I still had the lake house. The house that she always wanted. With the help of my mom and dad, we started to fix at the lake house. It took a few years. My mom and dad would look after the contractors while I was in the city. Having the house was perfect when everything was locked down. During the lockdowns, COVID, all that. I was able to escape the city and work remotely from the lake house. I now live here full time and work remotely. I'm just picturing this beautiful place. I'm picturing something in New England on the lake, peace and quiet, the beautiful views. I saw plenty of those when I was living in New England for 13 years. This guy earned it. Renovated the place. This summer, we had a 4th of July at the lake house, and my sister-in-law used photos from the lake house this summer in her Christmas card. One of those cards made it to my ex's cousin. The cousin recognized the house. The Saturday before New Year's, my ex's mother and sister were at my front door. My ex and the mother and sister were at my front door. After pleasantries and answering their initial questions, they made an offer to buy it. I refused. They weren't happy. So it's been like 10 years. And they show up on his doorstep unannounced. The ex, her mother and sister, all trying to gang up on you to get you to try to sell the house. The house that you bought as a gift and she dumped and cheated on you, obviously, and dumped you. And they expect you to sell after all the blood, sweat, and tears and renovations to make it amazing? This ain't over yet. A few days, I got a long text from my ex. This was the first time in about 9 years she has talked to me. Oh, my bad. It was the ex's mother and sister that showed up at the house. She called me an ass for keeping this from her. Her family is blaming me, or her family is blaming her for losing the house again. She then asked me to sell. Okay, give me $1 million. I still had no intention to sell. Now, her and her family are complaining on social media that this is some sort of revenge. Am I the a-hole? No, you're not the a-hole. She and her family are a bunch of a-holes. You don't owe them the house. You didn't buy it afterwards out of revenge. You bought that ahead of time. Obviously, she didn't know. What does she expect? You just to hand it over after all these years and give it to her? I bet she probably wants something below market value. I mean, can you imagine this guy probably, let's say he bought the house for, it's a lake house. Let's just say he bought it for $500,000. I'm just picking a number here. Did a bunch of renovations, blah, 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 and now it's worth $900,000. I'm picking a number here. She'd probably be like, want something cheaper. And I'd be like, okay, pay me $2 million. And she'd be like, no bank's ever going to loan me something that's not worth $2 million. Okay, fine, then give me cash. You don't owe her shit. She ended it with you weeks before your wedding. And obviously she cheated on you, and she's with her guy. Let him buy her something. You worked hard for this house. You did that for her. You renovated it. You earned it. You don't owe her or her family an explanation. And if they're saying things on social media, nasty, insulting things about you, or if there's any defamation going on, I'd talk to a lawyer. But this doesn't surprise me at all, the level of entitlement. Who the fuck does she think she is? But she's 38 years old now, so that kind of goes into the whole, no offense guys, millennial entitlement levels. Bullshit. The family lost the house not because it was taken away by the government because of unpaid taxes, because over a family dispute over inheritance issues, because they were all squabbling and fighting. No, you could buy that house. So no, you're not the a-hole. I'd keep posting pictures on social media just to piss them off. But anyhow, you don't owe her and them an explanation, and enjoy it. Success is the best revenge. Now, real quick, some comments here. One guy says, you're not the a-hole. Your intention was to surprise your ex with a house at the wedding. If you would call off the wedding, I'd reconsider my judgment, but she's the reason why she doesn't have access to that house. On top of that, you made the house your own. Enjoy it. You're damn right. Another guy says, you're most definitely not the a-hole, and you sound like a pretty great dude. Hell, you bought your ex an entire house as a wedding gift. It was so important for her family to get back, they should have paid closer attention as if it was on the market. You put tons of work and money into the house, you deserve it. Damn right. And one more, this guy says, I'm not the a-hole. The audacity of them to feel entitled to your home, like rubbing salt in a sword wound. You secure this for her. She left the relationship. Block their noise and boot them out of your head. You are not the a-hole. File statements of revenge with the police. It may not seem that important now, but do it. Even if the police are not enthusiastic, if damage, example arson, occurs, every person involved in revenge talk will become top suspects. And be sure your home is insured to rebuild. These costs climb every year. There you go. Like I said, it's a little different here, but how about that? Success, wealth, which he obviously bought that house, made that investment, worked hard. The best revenge. And it's like, okay, the house has a market value of $900,000 or $1 million. Okay, give me $2 million. Then you can have it all you want. And I bet you that they wanted a discount. Guarantee. But nope, assholes, you're not going to get it. And by the way, if you ever show up my property again, I will have the cops here so quick you wouldn't believe it. That'd be a pretty good one, guys.